The country, even the world, still in shock today after the latest mass shooting here in the United States. 21 killed, 19 of them children from the same fourth-grade classroom, along with 2 of their teachers. Just days before that, in Buffalo, New York, a racist massacre inside a grocery store. Families and friends are still mourning 10 victims there, all African-American. In Laguna Woods, a politically motivated attack inside a church, leaving 1 man dead and 5 others wounded. Guns are a complicated topic in the United States, and right here in Chicago, where some argue the laws are not keeping them out of the wrong hands. Here with a unique perspective on the history and future of gun ownership in the Black community, Philip Smith, the founder of the National African American Gun Association. Mr. Smith, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for being here. Glad to talk to you today.
First of all, I was unaware of your association. Tell me a little bit about it.
We're about 45,000 members nationwide. We have over 120 chapters, average about 1,000 new members on a monthly basis. Very, very active members. We have filed 6 amicus briefs to the U.S. Supreme Court. We are non-political. We have folks from Republicans, Democrats, gay, straight, rich, poor, you name it, we have it in our organization. And it makes a very vibrant, robust discussion and organization that we have.
You are the largest African-American firearms organization in the history of the United States. Why are Black people becoming owners more often and frequently now of firearms?
That's a great question. And I think it's an awakening. It's not a renaissance, because never before have this many African-American folks had firearms. Never. We are realizing that we are a part of the Second Amendment. That's part of our history. That's a part of our heritage. We have rights to the Second Amendment, and we can protect ourselves. And I think that's a very healthy outlook if done in a very legal, lawful, lawful abiding way with all of our members, in which they do. So it's a very good thing right now.
When you hear about these mass shootings, knowing that at least the 18-year-old in this case had the gun, it was legal, but when you hear about that, do you think that that laws need to be more tightened now, or what do we do, in your eyes, as a gun owner, to help solve this problem?
I'm a gun owner, but I'm a father first. Let's be real. And I'm a Black man who's a father who has 3 kids, and I want my babies safe just like everyone else.
Right.
But when having the discussion, we had to just really take a step back and just take a deep sigh and really understand that we're going to have some difficult conversations moving forward with some folks that don't necessarily have the same perspective. We're all good folks. We just have different views on how America should be structured and moving forward. But we have to have those conversations. Right now, the only thing that I see is going on is that you have 2 major groups kind of throwing rocks at each other from across the classroom, and nobody wants to sit down like the adults in the room and have conversations. We have to have a common ground, because if we don't, I think we're in for a world of hurt in terms of the frustrations and these continued shootings, because we need to start looking at them very closely.
So what is the common ground? How do we come to an agreement on stopping these shootings when you have so many people owning guns? And I understand the Second Amendment. We all understand that. No one wants to take that right away. But they're ghost guns. They're guns that are being brought from different states. There are guns getting into the hands of people that shouldn't have them.
Right. And you make a valid point, but I'll say this, and just to kind of speak with you in the same spirit, I don't think we really have a gun problem. We have a people problem that's being played out with guns and other objects, knives, whatever. We need to look at why these people are doing what they're doing. We can't legislate our way into a better place. You have to look at the people that are doing these things and not punish the gun owner.
So if not legislation, where does it come from? We're just learning recently that gunfire is the biggest cause of death in our youth. So how do we do this? If you say not legislation, how is it done?
I think we have the laws in place already, but I think we need to have those laws enforced in a different way. We can't sit back and every time that something happens, the knee-jerk reaction is say, okay, let's take guns away from the folks who aren't doing anything bad anyway. Law-abiding citizens should not be punished for those that are out there doing bad things. Let's go after the bad guys. Are there things that we need to change and can change? Absolutely. But it has to start down and dirty at the table with one another and having those conversations, those difficult conversations on gun laws and how we need to have them structured so everyone feels like there's a level of compromise and a point of where we all can start together, because bottom line, we're here together. And if we don't work these issues out, I think the the alternative is not a very bright one.
Here in Chicago, I report every night on violence, gun violence with youth who have guns, regardless of how they get them. Is your organization talking to kids about this, about gun safety, about how to and not to use a gun?
We're just starting a youth committee and new chapters. Some of our chapters already went ahead and are really aggressively, and I think very thankfully, talking to kids already out in the general public. And I think that's a good thing, because kids are the next wave of adults that are going to be here in America. So we need to have them informed, educated, and definitely directed in the right way. When you don't have those structures in place and those lines of communication, that's when things go kind of awry and kids start doing things that they shouldn't. But we have to start looking at the reasons. I mean, let's take a step back, and the reasons why these kids are doing the things that they're doing. And I believe if you take anybody from California to Southside Chicago to Southwest Atlanta, where I'm at right now, to South Central LA, and you look at those communities, there's some common grounds there. You have schools that are basically pipelines to prison. You have adversarial relationships with the police officer at best, and they have no viable skills. So you know what happens when you have a group of people that can't really engage into the mainframe of the economic engine of the U.S.? They're going to do whatever they have to do to eat because they have babies at home. We need to look at why are they, first of all, disenfranchised? Why do they have 2 and 3 felonies at age 22 and 23, which permanently puts them out of any type of economic growth? So those are the real reasons. Those are the motivations behind folks that are using these guns. They have no alternative. So we need to give them alternatives. So
I'm getting from you that you don't think guns are the problem. It's rooted much deeper than that. Let me ask you this, and you do have children, you say. I don't know their ages, but do you talk to them about how to use a gun, how not to use a gun?
My kids they're grown, but we do have conversations. Two of my children like to shoot, one does not. And I give them that, I'm not gonna sit here and try to preach or, put some dogma on them that they don't like. But we have a very honest, open discussion. And that's why my children are very, very comfortable in having conversations with me as a father and also a gun owner. And I think that's what every parent needs to do. Sit down with his or her family and have those discussions, honest discussions about your beliefs about guns and get their perspective. Because kids listen and they watch parents. And I think that's the most important thing. If you have parental perspective being placed on those children, you can at least engage them. I think it becomes problematic short-term and long-term, especially long-term, when you don't have adults in the room talking to these young folks, especially those going through, growing pains as a teenager, as a young adult. They need adults to have that feedback and that helping hand from time to time.
What do you use your gun for? Safety, mostly?
I use it for both. Safety, I have guns at home that I use strictly for self-defense. And also, I'm in the shooting sports. I like going to the range and exercising, my Second Amendment rights and go ahead and practice, long-range shooting as well as tactical shooting. I think guns are really, really fun if used in the right way with the right supervision. And I'll say this very carefully, the right training. And that's something the National African American Gun Association does very, very well. All of our chapters have certified instructors. All of our chapters have structured systems. When you come in the door, you're just not going to be allowed to grab a gun and run out and start shooting. We're going to make sure you're taught properly, and that's why we've had no instances of, misfires or anything like that, because we're very, very extremely careful before you're allowed to go out on that range. We're going to talk to you. We're going to tell you about the laws in your particular state, your region, and we would like all of our NAGA members to have a better understanding of just the national laws as they apply to firearms.
Is there any type of stigma that you know of surrounding Black gun owners?
Oh, absolutely. Let's be honest and clear. As young kids say today, let's be 100. When you take a Black person and a gun, typically there's a kind of a knee-jerk response like, why do Black folks need guns? Why are they up to something? And that stigma we are constantly trying to fight at the National African Gun Association. We counter that with positive images of young Black folks with guns at the range with their families, with their kids, showing that you can have a gun if lawfully utilized in a legal way. And I think that's the greatest thing that we're able to do with our organization. Folks come to us, whoever you are, regardless of you're Republican, Democrat, gay, straight, rich, poor, whatever your perspective, you're embraced by us. We're going to give you a high five and a hug, and we're going to train you. And people really, really resonate to that process, that system, because they feel like they can be accepted for who they are, and they can come and learn about firearms in the same breath. That's a very powerful message universally that goes to all communities, Black, white, Asian, and Latino.
Phil Smith, thank you so much. Be safe, be well.
Thank you.